What makes a rule fair? What gives a leader the right to govern? At the heart of these questions lies a deeper one about the source of moral authority itself. Is it something we inherit, a wisdom passed down through generations that tells us how to live a good life and build a just society? Or is it something we create ourselves, a set of rules we agree to follow for our mutual benefit? This fundamental debate, pits two powerful traditions against each other. One side argues that our moral obligations are rooted in our relationships, our families, and our history. The other insists that legitimate authority can only come from the consent of the governed, from a promise we make to one another. This is not just an academic puzzle. It really shapes how we think about everything from family duties to political justice. If authority comes from tradition, then our primary moral task is to understand our role within a larger social order and to act with virtue and respect. We find meaning by honoring the past and fulfilling our designated responsibilities. However, if authority comes from agreement, then our main moral task is to think for ourselves, to protect our individual rights, and to hold our leaders accountable to the promises they made. Here, the ideal is not harmony through hierarchy, but justice through mutual consent and equality. Consider a simple example. Why should we obey the law? One answer is that the law represents an accumulated wisdom, a set of time-tested principles that maintain social harmony and guide us toward virtuous living. It connects us to our ancestors and our community. Another answer is that we obey the law because we, or our representatives, agreed to create it. We consent to give up a small amount of our freedom in exchange for the security and order that laws provide. The law is legitimate not because it is old, but because it reflects our collective will. These two answers point to very different understandings of what it means to be a good person and a good citizen. Ultimately, the question forces us to consider where we place our trust. Do we trust in the enduring patterns of human relationships and the ethical teachings of the past? Or do we place our trust in our own capacity for reason, our ability to choose our own commitments, and our power to design a fair system from the ground up? Exploring these two paths, the path of inherited duty and the path of chosen agreement, helps us understand the moral foundations of different societies and even the conflicting values we might hold within ourselves. It is, I think, a journey into the very meaning of justice, community, and the good life. Confucianism offers a profound answer rooted in tradition, family, and virtue. For Confucius, a Chinese philosopher who lived over 2,000 years ago, moral authority doesn't come from an abstract agreement but flows naturally from our most basic human relationships. The family is the model for all of society. Just as children owe respect and care to their parents, a ruler should act like a benevolent father to his people. Moral authority is earned through character, not granted by a vote. A good leader governs by inspiring people with their own virtue, demonstrating qualities like benevolence or ren, righteousness or yi, and propriety or li. These are not just personal traits, they are the glue that holds society together in a state of harmony. The concept of roles is central to this vision. In Confucian thought, everyone has a specific place and a set of duties that come with it. A ruler must be a true ruler, a minister a true minister, a father a true father, and a son a true son. Fulfilling your role properly is your primary moral obligation. This is guided by Li, which can be translated as rituals, rites, or proper conduct. These rituals are not empty gestures, they are the external expressions of inner sincerity and respect. They teach us how to interact with others correctly, reinforcing the social harmony that is the ultimate goal of a good society. Morality is therefore less about individual rights and more about relational duties. But what ensures a ruler governs justly and not as a tyrant? This is where the mandate of heaven comes in. This ancient Chinese political concept states that a ruler's authority is granted by a divine or natural force, heaven, but it is not permanent. The mandate is conditional upon the ruler's virtuous conduct and their ability to maintain peace and prosperity for the people. If a ruler becomes corrupt, cruel, or incompetent and the people suffer from famine, floods, or social unrest, it is seen as a sign that the ruler has lost the mandate of heaven. This provides a powerful moral check on political power. This means that while authority is hierarchical, it is not absolute. The people are not expected to blindly obey a wicked leader. A ruler who loses the mandate of heaven forfeits their legitimacy. While Confucianism emphasizes loyalty and order, it also contains a justification for withdrawing support from an unjust regime. The moral authority of the ruler is therefore deeply connected to their performance and their character. They must constantly prove, through their actions and their commitment to the welfare of their people, that they are worthy of the power they hold. Authority is not a right, but a heavy responsibility. The social contract theory, which blossomed in Europe during the Enlightenment, presents a radically different source for moral and political authority. Thinkers like Thomas Hobbes, John Locke, and Jean-Jacques Rousseau started not with tradition or community, but with the individual. They imagined a state of nature, a time before any governments existed. In this state, individuals are free and equal, but life can be dangerous, uncertain, or unjust. To escape this precarious situation, rational individuals voluntarily agree with one another to form a government. They consent to give up some of their natural freedom in exchange for security, order, and the protection of their rights. This act of agreement, the social contract, is the one and only source of legitimate political authority. Unlike Confucianism, where authority flows downward from a virtuous ruler, here it flows upward from the people. The government's power is not inherited or divinely granted, it is delegated by the governed. Thomas Hobbes argued that people agree to an all-powerful sovereign to escape a brutal state of nature, which he described as a war of all against all. For Hobbes, the contract is about survival, and the ruler must have absolute power to prevent society from dissolving back into chaos. Obedience is owed in exchange for safety. John Locke offered a more optimistic view. He believed the state of nature was governed by natural law, and that individuals possessed natural rights, including the rights to life, liberty, and property. For Locke, people form a government not just to escape chaos, but to better protect these pre-existing rights. The government's authority is therefore limited. It cannot violate the very rights it was created to secure. If a government oversteps its bounds and becomes a tyranny, it breaks the social contract. In such cases, the people have not only a right but a duty to resist and establish a new government that will honor the terms of the agreement. Jean-Jacques Rousseau added another layer, emphasizing the idea of the general will. For Rousseau, the social contract is not just a transaction for security, but a transformative act that creates a community. By coming together, individuals create a collective body with a single will, the general will, which always aims for the common good. True freedom, Rousseau argued, is not doing whatever you want, but obeying a law that you have given to yourself as part of this collective. Authority is legitimate only when it expresses this general will, ensuring that people are ruled by principles they have all agreed upon for the benefit of all. Section 4: A Tale of Two Systems, Inherited Duty versus Chosen Agreement. The contrast between Confucianism and social contract theory reveals, two fundamentally different ways of thinking about moral life. Confucianism builds its worldview on the idea of inherited duty. Our obligations are not things we choose, they are given to us by our position in a web of relationships. We are born as sons or daughters, and later we may become parents, neighbors, or subjects. Each role comes with a predefined script of responsibilities. The moral project is to learn this script and perform it with sincerity and excellence. This creates a stable, hierarchical society where everyone knows their place and contributes to collective harmony. Authority is earned through the virtuous fulfillment of these duties. Social contract theory, on the other hand, champions the ideal of chosen agreement. It sees the individual as the starting point of all moral and political obligation. Nothing can be demanded of us unless we have consented to it. Our duties are not inherited from the past, they are constructed through a rational agreement made in the present. This places immense value on personal autonomy, individual rights, and equality. In this model, authority is not earned through personal virtue, but is granted through a formal process of consent. A leader is legitimate not because they are a good person, but because they were chosen by the people and operate within the agreed-upon laws. This leads to a clear difference in how each system views hierarchy. In Confucianism, hierarchy is natural and necessary for social order. The relationship between ruler and subject, or parent and child, is inherently unequal, but it is meant to be a relationship of mutual care and respect. The senior person has a duty to guide and protect, while the junior person has a duty to obey and learn. For social contract theorists, however, the starting point is the fundamental equality of all individuals. Any hierarchy of power is artificial. It is a tool we create for a specific purpose, and its authority must be constantly justified to the people, who remain the ultimate source of power. The treatment of injustice also highlights this divide. When faced with a corrupt ruler, the Confucian response is primarily moral and relational. The first step is for ministers to offer loyal criticism, trying to guide the ruler back to the path of virtue. If that fails, and the ruler loses the mandate of heaven, support is withdrawn, and the system allows for a change in leadership, often through rebellion that is justified after the fact. In social contract theory, the response is legal and procedural. Citizens can protest, vote the ruler out of office, or, in extreme cases as Locke argued, exercise their right to revolution because the ruler has violated the explicit terms of the contract. The recourse is to the agreement, not to the ruler's character. Section 5. Bridging the divide. Can tradition and consent coexist? After examining these two powerful traditions, we are left with a compelling question: must we choose between them? Or is it possible for the inherited wisdom of Confucianism and the chosen agreements of social contract theory to learn from each other? Perhaps a truly just and stable society needs elements of both. A society built only on contracts and individual rights might, honestly, lack a deeper sense of community, shared values, and mutual care. It can become cold, legalistic, and focused on self-interest, losing the bonds that make life meaningful beyond simple transactions for security. The Confucian emphasis on relational duties and character reminds us that a good society needs good people, not just good laws. Conversely, a society based purely on tradition and hierarchy risks becoming oppressive and stagnant. It can leave little room for individual freedom, critical thinking, or social progress. Without the principle of consent, traditional roles can become rigid cages, and rulers can justify their power without being truly accountable to the people they govern. The social contract tradition's focus on individual rights, equality, and consent provides a vital safeguard against tyranny. It insists that every person has inherent dignity and that no authority is legitimate if it is not grounded in the will of the governed. This protects minorities and allows for peaceful change. A possible synthesis could involve embedding the principles of consent and individual rights within a culture that still values community, relational duties, and the cultivation of virtue. We could imagine a society where people freely agree to a political system, a social contract, but where the culture encourages them to be more than just rights-bearing individuals. It would be a society where education focuses not only on critical thinking but also on empathy, respect, and responsibility toward others. In this hybrid model, we would honor our roles in families and communities, not because we are forced to, but because we recognize their value in living a full human life. In the end, the debate between Confucianism and social contract theory is not about finding a single winner. It is about recognizing the essential truths that each tradition illuminates. Moral authority is a complex phenomenon. It does seem to derive partly from our consent to be governed, but it is also shaped by our relationships, our character, and our shared sense of the common good. The best path forward may lie in a thoughtful balance, creating political systems that protect our rights as individuals, while also nurturing the virtues that allow us to live together in harmony and mutual respect. Tradition and consent need not be enemies. They can be partners in the ongoing project of building a better world.